you seen Star Wars?
I'm happy to say, at the end of the day, Skeleton Crew is a good Star Wars show. And it's a lot like Andor, in my opinion. When both of these shows were announced, I had little to no interest in Andor. I had no interest in Skeleton Crew. But after watching both of these shows, I'm happy to say I enjoyed these experiences. And Skeleton Crew is a different kind of experience. It's not the peaks that Andor had, but after seeing something like The Acolyte, it's a lot better to see Skeleton Crew. And it's funny because both these shows came out in 2024. Both of these shows, The Acolyte and Skeleton Crew, dealt with mysteries that we, the audience, had to solve. The difference is you solved the mystery for Acolyte by episode 3, and they just kept dragging along those same plot points that you kind of lost interest in what was happening. Skeleton Crew, every single episode gave you small but meaningful details about these plot lines and storylines that you want to learn more about. You learned a little bit more about Jod in every episode, a little bit more about Adnan, the great work, and the supervisor and all that stuff, but you learned enough in each episode that there was still enough mystery to keep you engaged for the rest of the series. And I think the same can be said for the series finale. At the end, we still want to know more about Jod. Who is this Jedi? Who trained him? What's going to happen to him after this? Is the New Republic taking over Adnan? Is Adnan going to be an independent system? Is Jod going to go to jail for the rest of his life? What's going to happen to these kids? How's Adnan going to get repaired? But one thing that stands out for Skeleton Crew compared to other shows like The Acolyte, Kenobi, or even Book of Boba Fett is that you actually do care about these characters. There is a curiosity in what happens to their future now because you liked watching them go from these innocent kids on this planet that's very sheltered from the galaxy to now they have a lot more experience than the rest of anyone else on the planet because they actually went out into the galaxy. His dad, Wim's dad at the end says, "You don't think I would have wanted to go and meet a Jedi and go on this adventure and everything like that?" Like it's a very great way of telling a story and the difference between the kids and the adults and everything like that. It's small things like that I feel like are beautiful. I enjoyed watching these kids go on a different adventure every episode on a different planet. I wanted them to go back home and reunite with their parents. As the episodes went on, I enjoyed seeing their parents more and more. Wim's dad, yet again, when he's on the bike with the kids and everything, he makes a jump and he's all excited. He punches Jod in the face and everything. Like, it was cool seeing his dad go from kind of nerdy to being like, hey, you realize like I was a kid at your age once too, right? I wanted to do these things. I got a little bit of youthful adventure in me. All that stuff, yet again, small details, but they had some meaningful impacts that actually resonate with you a lot better than some of the emotional and soulless stuff you got going on with The Acolyte or Kenobi or Book of Boba Fett. You wanted Jod to be a hero for these kids, and you're disappointed when he's not. And then he goes full pirate and he just starts stealing stuff. And then you kind of feel bad for him at the same time because he's like, I didn't have anything. I got picked up by a Jedi. She was training me for like a little bit, and then they killed her in front of me. So yeah, I don't want to hurt anybody, but I want my money and I want to get out of here. And then at the end, when Wim gets on the elevator after they kind of beat Jod, and he calls out to him, he's like, "No, come on." And there's a moment that you want Jod to get on the elevator with him. Those are small things, but they really mean a lot in the grand scheme of things. I think this was a solid Star Wars show. I think the characters, Neil, Fern, Wim, KB, were all good. It was great seeing their arcs over the 8 episodes and the relationships that they had with each other and how, of course, they were standoffish at the end. And at the end, they're all very close and basically like a little family. That's good storytelling. It's not that hard. It's really not. My only complaint is that I didn't like Fern as the actress. I just thought, the acting wasn't all that great on her part. But the other 3 I thought were solid. 3 out of 4 ain't bad. The big reveal for Adnan was done in a great way, too. You learn about the barrier, the supervisor's a droid, which was a common theory, but it was satisfying to finally get that reveal. And the droid's not dumb. It doesn't give you an information dump either. And it's witty with stuff where it's like, okay, so are you an emissary or are you a Jedi? Which one is it? What are you lying about here? And then Jod just kills it. I mean, you don't get any context to what Adnan really is, how they have all this money and everything, the great work. You don't know everything you want to know, but you know enough to be satisfied, which I think is another good point for Skeleton Crew being a good show. What I love about this show is that it was a simple and fun story, and it wasn't about the fate of the galaxy or saving the world or the Jedi versus the Sith. It's about 4 kids on a secret treasure planet who get lost in space and need to find their way home. Every episode felt different, it was unique, and pretty memorable. John Watts and Chris Ford, they captured that feeling of being in a galaxy far, far away, but they didn't have to use member berries every episode to do that. But unfortunately, the viewership for this series is pretty bad according to some of the reports, so it's unlikely we'll get a second season anytime, maybe ever at this point with the current state of Star Wars. But that's okay. I think once again, this show ended in such a way that you didn't really need a second season. I'm satisfied with the story enough to go, that was good. You don't always need to do these 5 to 10 year long projects on just one story. This is a good one and done if that's the case. But if it doesn't end at the first season, even better. I want a second season. I truly do. I want to see what happens next with Jod and with the pirates in general, and if what happens to Adden and these kids, and who created at Adden? Why was this droid in charge? There's so many storylines that they could follow through with that they could do a second and third season. But my only complaint, to get into the negatives about this show, my only complaint is that it just wasn't great. And that's a weird complaint, right? This was a good show, but it didn't have those breathtaking Andor and Mandalorian moments, which is not a bad thing. The show is still solid. It checks all the right boxes. It's got good characters. It's got a world that feels real and lived in like Star Wars should be. It's got a good plot and storyline, and it's got a fun time. But it didn't have some of those grand moments like with Aldani and the heist that you have in Andor, or a lot of the moments in Mandalorian, like the end of season 1 or the end of season 2, or even the moments with like Bill Burr in season 2 of the Mandalorian. Like some of these moments are great Star Wars moments. I don't think Skeleton Crew really had that. But it's not a bad thing. It's just, hey, you could do a little better if we had a second season. But it's easily become one of my favorite Star Wars shows. It's probably number 3, right behind Andor and The Mandalorian. I think it's more enjoyable than Book of Boba Fett, Kenobi, The Acolyte, Bad Batch, even Rebels. And it's heartbreaking to see a drastic difference in the quality between 2 Star Wars shows in 1 year. Acolyte looked bad, had bad acting, bad writing, bad directing, bad pacing, and a bad finale. Skeleton Crew, it looked good, had good acting, good writing, good directing, good pacing, and a good finale. It's the opposite of everything that The Acolyte is, and it shows how Star Wars television can be good. So at the end of the day, I think this is what Disney Star Wars needs to be going forward. You need to look at these 3 shows, and/or The Mandalorian and Skeleton Crew, and say, this is what Star Wars should be on television. Oh, also, I think this show is better than Ahsoka. That's the show I was missing. Yes, I think this is better looking than Ahsoka, better acting as well and everything. This is the blueprint. This, Mandalorian, and Andor. That's what Star Wars television should be. But as a rating of a series, I give Skeleton Crew an 8 out of 10. It's a good Star Wars show. It's not great, but it is worthy of a second season, and I humbly ask you, Disney and Lucasfilm, to just give us one more season. And if not, bring John Watts and Chris Ford back for another Star Wars project. Maybe give them a spin-off movie, once again, not connected to anything. They got the right idea here. Let them cook, all right? Thanks for watching. Give me your thoughts in the comment section below. What would you rate Skeleton Crew Season 1? Do you want a Season 2? And I think the biggest question is going to be, who taught Jod? Who was the Jedi that taught Jod a little bit about being a Jedi? Thanks for watching. Smash the like button to help me defeat the dark side of the YouTube algorithm. Subscribe for more Star Wars only content, and I'll see you all next time. May the Force be with you, always.